I'd like to welcome everybody to this side event called A Positive Major Mandate for Humanity at the United Nations. This is not a regular side event. We are disseminating an idea, which is what our organization does. We made it a journalist org because we can take on any opinion, any idea. All we have to do is in-depth report on it, and I can take it right to the United Nations and speak on it, and they can't say anything like, well, you know what, you're about trees and the Amazon. What are you talking? We can talk about anything. So if you're of similar mind, journalist org, free to do whatever you want. But today we're about this positive major mandate for humanity at the United Nations. It's something I've been working on for 14 years. It's something I actually thought about when I was a student in university, and I tried to do it when I was about 28 years old, but I just couldn't do it at that age, start the companies, finance things, build an organization. I had to wait till I was a much older guy, but it's here now. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming to this side event. We'll be disseminating an idea that came from what we call the Fortress Experiment, which became a feature-length documentary made by a commercial company. I run 6. One's a production house for TV and movies. But the Journalists Association had editorial control in this thing, and that's what we're going to present to you today. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to read the abstract from the report titled the same name, A Positive Major Mandate for Humanity at the United Nations, and then we'll take a look at a few videos. We'll get into the discussion. This is a workshop, so anybody can butt in. All you have to do is scream over my voice and probably hit the button here. He says it's going to turn yellow, and then he's going to turn it red so that you can hear yourself over the speakers. So we'll get into it. Okay. The United Nations needs a positive mandate in addition to its current mandates of eliminating war, peacekeeping, hunger, and many of the other troubles that face humanity, many of which are addressed by the Sustainable Development Goals at the UN. While these current mandates and initiatives are without question good and important mandates and initiatives that require our utmost attention, it would seem that a major positive mandate does not exist or does not address a negative or problem in our world. For example, the elimination of war, poverty, hunger, whatever. This is a shame, as the human race has so many positive attributes that could be the foundation of a positive message and mandate at the United Nations. A positive major mandate agreed upon by all brings all the people of the world together toward a common goal or direction in our culture. Such a common mandate makes it easier as a base or starting point to tackle other problems in our world. A positive major mandate could be clear self-determination for the human race as opposed to just existing. Humanity would now have new direction and purpose to their existence. And this, of course, is aside from religion and faith and whatnot. This is just a man-made type of idea and direction. Our version of this positive mandate is simply that it be the fullest expression of humanity's physical and mental abilities. That's our positive mandate. And the reason we want this type of mandate is because it not only makes rational sense by allowing all forms of ideas and solutions to problems to be used in advancing our culture, but also because it makes us happy. And our own 13-year experiment called the Fortress Experiment into the matter proves this without question, as all participants were happy when given a chance to freely express themselves, while at the same time involving no negative changes on themselves, their families, or their communities and nations. A positive mandate cannot just be a rational exercise in bringing the mandate into being. It must also be a visceral affirmation. In short, it should feel right to everyone involved. So basically what I'm saying is that we can have this goal of freest expression of humanity's mental and physical abilities, but within the framework of each nation's laws, religions, and cultures. This can actually work and have a positive benefit, because the first thing everybody's going to say is that there's a lot of countries that aren't interested in freedom of expression. That's wrong. If you talk to these other nations, they are fully in favor of freedom of expression, but within their framework of what they consider freedom of expression. So while I'm putting this out there, realize that this actually can have a chance at the UN if you actually deal with each individual nation and how they perceive implementing this. So, okay, I'll just continue. Adopting the goal of fullest expression of humanity's mental and physical abilities gives the Universal Declaration of Human Rights a reason for being. And I want to mention, it's the Universal Declaration. Somebody just said, okay, we're going to declare it. But why do we declare it? If we have this positive mandate, We need these rights to keep that mandate in force, to enable that which we hold so dear. So I'll continue anyways. We need those human rights because they are a necessary part of achieving the goal of humanity's freest expression of its physical and mental abilities. And the reason why is because it makes rational sense and makes us happy. Finally, this type of mandate must show that nations, cultures, communities, and individual families of the people who embrace this mandate will not be changed in any way that disrupts societies, those cultures, and nations. And if we are successful in showing that a positive mandate, as stated, could be adopted with all the positive attributes that come with it, and without the negative attributes that one could possibly envision, we would recommend serious discussion on the possibility of adoption by member nations. That's already happening right now. A positive mandate at the United Nations can be a good thing and a reality. Now, I'm going to go to these testimonials. I think there's about 5 of them. Come on in, grab a movie, sit down. Yeah, become a part of the, come on in, take a seat. Yeah, I think I brought the testimonials I have with me right now for the people that started our first project, which was a TV show. We had no real knowledge about how to make a TV show, but we decided to do one in 2004, editing it on free software and then ingratiating ourselves onto the second largest network in Canada. That actually aired 1 year later. So this guy was the host of that show. His name is Dan Strudwick, and here's what he thought of the whole thing. Okay, take it away, Dan. What are you going to do with that? Where do you want to go? I mean, you're a free man now. What's up with you?
A free man is a good place to be. Everybody wants that, but absolutely, if people like what we're doing, we will continue doing it. I'm going to do it anyways, whether people like it or not. I hope that I write things and perform for people where they do like it and they do hop on board, and I entertain them and bring them through different moods and hey, I'd like to write a song that people get married to and dance and have a good time to, and that's what music's about to me.
What is Avery Knapp?
Avery Knapp, a rock band that just wanted to entertain the hardworking men and women out there, come and see our shows, and we felt good, they felt good. That's all it was about.
Okay, the thing to take from this is that I thought we would have a different distribution of what people thought would be how they wanted to express themselves fully. Most of the people were into the music. I'd say the second largest was into writing, fiction and stuff, and also we ran a newspaper and, of course, the journalist org. Very few people went into political, and for some countries, I think they're going to be surprised by this. I'm the only one that's pushing any kind of, I wouldn't even call this a political agenda. This is actually a humanitarian agenda. Everybody else was into the arts and into that type of creativity. It actually surprised me that if you allow people to be all they can be, it goes into music, it goes into the arts, it goes into... So in effect, people that are afraid of giving people full run of their expression really have less to worry about than you think. I mean, I was actually surprised. I thought we would see more politics, more advocacy, more this or that. No. As a matter of fact, the next 3 are all about the music. It's strange how, I was the only one. At any rate, why we need a positive major mandate at the for humanity at the United Nations. Okay. Yeah, go for it.
I don't believe you gave us your name.
Oh, okay. My name is Maurice Ali.
Okay, and
I'm the president of the International Association of Independent Journalists. That's an NGO, not-for-profit, that's in consultative status with the United Nations. We got consultative status in 2016, but we were active in the UN system. We even made a speech in General Assembly before that during WASIS Plus 10 when they were setting up the internet and internet activities for the next 10 years. So we were the Citizen Journalist Org. the only one actually, and we got bloggers and citizen journalists their rights and freedoms along with traditional journalists. That's what I originally came in for. And yeah.
Oh, and I have a second question. This individual, they started by saying you're free now. We have no background on
Oh, I just said he was part of the experiment, and these are testimonials at the end of the experiment. So he doesn't have a camera sticking in his face, because we followed these people around. For example, Dan there, he's still a member of our organization, as we try to get this thing on Netflix or whatever. But I started with him in 2004, and I think that was 2017. So for 13 years, I've been, bugging this guy and following them around to see if they left their families to become a rock star or whatever. And that never happened. Everybody stayed in their job. Everybody stayed in their family. There were no negative sides to this. So I can go to all these nations at the United Nations with real proof that if they were to adopt an open policy of expression, you are not going to see the kind of trouble they typically envision and tell me that would be the cause if we went this way. I actually have years and years and years of following people to show them this is not the case. So it's very important for advocacy at the United Nations, right? Anything else, or keep going?
I
go.
represent the International Federation on Aging.
Okay.
And thus far, I haven't seen anyone, but did you include older people in your interviews?
Here's a guy. He's 82 years old when I met him. He was an original Canadian World War D-Day vet who landed on the beaches of Normandy and then became a world-class famous harmonica player from the end of the vaudeville era. We resurrected his career. He helped us do a documentary on his life, half of it with the war and half of it with the harmonica stuff. And sure, I am totally blind to any kind of stereotyping or segregation. The policies I come up with have nothing to do with your sex, your age, or whatever. They can have antennas sticking out of their head and green skin. I don't care. They all get treated equally. Okay, look, I'm going to skip ahead. I'm going to play this for you right now. You're, how old are you right now? 83? Is it 83?
Still 83.
Yeah, still 83. And most people, I think, would have called it quits by now. What is this fire in you that wants to keep performing at an age where most people would think you wouldn't be able to perform?
Well, I've still got the lungs to play the harmonica, and I still have fingers to play the piano and organ, and I even try my little bit of singing. But it's to keep me happy, and that's in my soul, my blood, to keep at it regardless.
Okay, now I'm going to backtrack, but nobody will have a better friend than me. No, I've got all the bases covered. He's dead now. He died in 2014. He was given an honor guard funeral and resides at a military cemetery in Hamilton, up in Canada near Toronto. But no, Donald Brasher, I spent a week videotaping all of his experiences. We have submitted some of it to the Archives Canada. I'm going to submit all of it to Archives Canada. But no, it's for real. The way we did the experiment, we had controls so that we couldn't pick or choose anybody. It was basically everybody that had a physical connection with me. So we would get career criminals. You're going to see, he's now my right-hand man. He's rehabilitating himself. We had people from upper middle-class life, from poverty, welfare moms, two who have worked as the editor of my newspaper, and they now have proper jobs, one with the largest law firm in Canada. And no, the experiment was done properly as a real experiment. The results are really irrefutable. I'm coming in here with all the evidence I need to answer any questions and to push this agenda and put it in their laps and see what happens with it. So, no, this has been fleshed out. Anyways, okay. So basically, why do we need a positive major mandate for humanities? Because there is no real signpost for humanity at the United Nations. If we were to eradicate war, hunger, strife, and all this, what would we have as something to do with the United Nations? Well, by having a positive major mandate, you would have that signpost. And it has to be, we're not telling anybody or humanity what their goal is. We are just setting up the atmosphere for humanity to be or go wherever it wants to go. And the fullest expression of humanity's mental and physical abilities, because it makes us happy, was what we found out from the experiment. So I'm going to go to this slide now, which is our version of a positive major mandate for humanity at the United Nations. Okay, I've got a bit more than on this slide, but our version of a positive major mandate for humanity at the United Nations is that the ultimate goal of humanity, apart from its religious being, should be the freest expression of humanity's mental and physical abilities. And that the reason this goal is a correct one is because most people are happiest when they are allowed to be all they can be, in addition to the rational reasons. And the advantages of our positive major mandate for humanity at the United Nations are, 1, shows humanity in a positive light. If you were an alien and you just, buzz down to Earth, right to the United Nations, as they always do in the movies, I mean, what are you going to make of humanity if you just look at what's going on at the United Nations? You're going to say, oh, they're nothing but a bunch of warring people that subjugate, and there's all kinds of disease and hunger. And because we're focusing on correcting those, but we don't seem to have like the positives, the true positives all by themselves. So this corrects that. Okay, 2, it encourages creativity of all forms, which helps develop our culture and sciences and philosophy. This type of mandate lends itself to an open-ended future of possibilities, as there is no specified goal, but the conditions that are required to attain whatever those abilities can reach. Okay, 4, forces world leaders to think about ultimate common goals and common ground accepted by all is always a good foundation for issue resolution to come to agreement on other problems. For example, it's a sort of laughable bad thing to mention technology run amok or AI right now, but with a positive mandate like this, we are opening up the ability to fund programs and initiatives to bring out as much of the human mental and cognitive and visceral abilities through arts and all that to keep us relevant in a world of AI. Trying to do things at the UN from scratch is like trying to make an elephant dance, as they say. By having a positive mandate like this, it makes it more easier and streamlined to combat these problems when they start to come. And I don't want to see humanity living in shanty towns with a few rich humans and a society of robots working for them. No, I'd rather go this way. 5, unites all people in the world under one general common goal or direction for humanity. And 6, gives humanity a formalized version of self-determination apart from religion. We don't forget about religion, but these are actually 2 separate things. 7, gives a reason for the Universal Declaration of Human Rights to exist as more than just a declaration, but rather as a necessary part of a major positive mandate that is agreed upon by all. 8, with a formalized goal or mandate, you have direction, and with direction comes the means to accomplish it. Remember that without a stated goal, you are floundering, you are just existing as a species. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about rational arguments and the happiness principle that I've been mentioning. Over and over again, we didn't set out with a goal about happiness and freedom. This is what came out. And that first guy you saw, Dan Strudwick, actually came up to me while he was writing. We produced some albums with him. He was writing the music for the albums, and he says, you know what? I've been out of this. He was out of it for about 10 years. When I got back into it, I noticed what you were talking about. I actually felt happy, right? Just happy doing it. And this is reverberated through everybody, that when we allowed them to do what they always wanted to do, they were happy. And as we said before, with no negative impact to their societies, cultures, and nations. Okay. There are many reasons for a major positive mandate allowing the freest expression for humanity's physical and mental abilities. It allows all forms of expression to further creativity in all its forms. It allows more ways to resolve the problems that humanity will have to face in the future. It also continues development of our culture and influx of new ideas. In short, it brings to humanity as a group and as individuals more ideas and more options to choose from, which ultimately impacts our self-determination. However, when it comes to a mandate as basic and general as this one for humanity, rational arguments are not enough. As I keep telling people, you have to win their hearts and minds. Now, this is the key. I'm going to stop right here. This is the key. We can sit here and tell people, you can't discriminate about these people. It's bad to do this. It's bad. But we're telling them. That doesn't mean they're going to believe it in their hearts. And we've seen that in the States, for example, that while people may say, oh, yeah, what's going on in their minds is something else. By actually bringing forth this type of mandate and seeing what happens when you give that homeless guy on the street, because a lot of the people that helped me start this organization were homeless. All those welfare moms and that eventually became like the editor of the paper and ended up in law, they were on welfare. Some of them actually lived on the street that are still with me. I think at our film premiere, almost everybody there lived on the street. I didn't live on the street, but they were living on the street over sewer grates and stuff like that. What's going to happen is that if we have this positive major mandate, even as just a banner on the UN website, when people see stereotype people that they thought would never have any reason to do anything more than what they thought these people would do, when they start breaking those molds, you're going to have to evaluate everybody as an individual. We are turning the individuals around, and that is the best way to combat every kind of social ill. Instead of telling people how they should act, because you can tell them how they can act, but if they don't really believe it up here, if you haven't convinced them up here and in here, then you're just wasting your time, right? You're enforcing a policy. And we've seen a lot of enforcement of policies in the world, and they ultimately never win. You've got to win their hearts and minds. So, yeah. Okay, you got to win their hearts and minds. Some will say, well, what about rational arguments? And the science says this. As philosophy students, we know that science just deals with relations between things, not the things themselves. Rationality is just a mental tool, not the only one. You have to appeal to their visceral selves. They have to feel that this actually works. And by this idea of freest expression of mind and body because it makes us happy, we have, as far as I can see, a positive major mandate that actually has some sticking power with the general public. Okay, you know what? I like that. I'm going to skip the rest of it because I think that sounds better. Okay, so we've got another video. This one's Michael Atkinson. Michael Atkinson is a guy who had a lifetime of medical problems. He's currently on dialysis. He has no kidney function. He still continues because he loves making music and also loves video production. He was part of our first TV show. And so we will hear from him.
Yeah, he cuts it off when he sees me. Okay.
We were relearning how to do everything in a new world that we've never been a part of. The online world, the self-production world, the big white elephants were dying, now they're dead. And I don't expect it to get any better anytime soon, but we can't stop. We're not stopping. We started pre-production on another record. So
I know, but let me put it to you this way. We have to end this 1 hour documentary.
Of
You're
course.
going to keep going.
We're going to.
What do you want to say to anybody watching this after 11 years of
failure?
Well, no. After 11 years of your life, what do you want to tell these people at the end of your documentary? What do you want to tell them?
Sure. If you're going to do it in this day and age, 2015, 2016, whenever this documentary comes out, do it for love. If you're not doing it for love, you're doing it wrong. Because you know what? It's the love of it that'll sustain you, because nothing else will. If you don't love it, get out. If you're just doing it for the motions of it, then you failed before you started. And just do it out of absolute love.
Okay, that's Michael Atkinson.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, it's a workshop. Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I think everybody can hear me. I didn't need to sit at got a loud voice and it's quiet. My name is Ed Keene. I'm a representative of the International Confederation of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, which is a worldwide organization. Large membership, but little money. Poco dinero, as they say in Spanish. But my first question is, I'm a little confused, and it's just my ignorance, and I don't mean to be offensive. But when you say humanity, do you have any particular definition or frame of reference of what you mean? I mean, I kind of know what humanity is in my own sense, but I'm not quite sure.
Humanity as in everybody, but our positive mandate is apart from religion. Okay. When we started to lobby this, there were two entities that I wanted to go to first. First was the Pope. And I actually sent a big package with, this is now a movie. Prior to this, it was 8 one-hour documentaries. He got, and I had a day, he doesn't live in this big, he lives in an apartment building with regular people.
Speaking of Francis, right? Pope Francis?
Yeah, that's right. I had it delivered right to his door. Because he was a person I thought would see the efficacy of this. But you're right, it's apart from religion. Religion and faith is separate. This is a man-made type of initiative. The second entity was the Kingdom of Bhutan. And we submitted these last year in 2018. One, because Bhutan is a member of the General Assembly, and the Pope has a lot of influence himself, even though they are basically an observer, deliberately. Yeah, we've fleshed this out. We're doing it as well as we can, but yeah, we are separating religion from the positive mandate, which is a man-made entity.
I certainly admire what you're doing, as I understand it up to this point. You're new to me. My question is, I'm not sure how to frame this, but are you concerned with, if you're concerned with humanity, the UN, as I'm sure you know, adopted in 2015, really in 2000, they started with the millennial goals. Now we're at the development or the 2030 goals, the 17 goals. And are you kind of in sync with any of those particular goals? Because, for example, dealing with...
No, not interested whatsoever. Those goals are good and proper of themselves, but they are linked to a political system and a financial structure system, and there are just too many, they are too entangled, and some play this game very well to get what they want. But that is something I can't afford to get involved here. What I'm doing is disseminating an idea. Then I let people steal that idea, make it their own, and turn it into policy, because I can only take this so far. If you do what I do, you have to accept the fact that your creativity, your life's work is going to be grabbed, snatched by other people. You are going to be pushed to the side, and your participation in it is going to be made very irrelevant. But the idea can be made into flesh, and you have to let people steal your ideas. If you're petty enough to want to have, that was my idea, you're in the wrong business if you're in a philosophy, right? So we are just here to disseminate the ideas and let normal human nature do its merry way.
I don't want to dominate your time.
Yeah. No, go for it. We have plenty of time.
I apologize for that. You mentioned homelessness before, and I just wanted to let you know, and perhaps the other people here, the group I belong to and several other groups, we're part of what we call the Vincentian family. So overall, we probably represent maybe 1 million, 2 million people around the world with our different charities in different ways. What I mean? I'm talking about grassroots people. We're trying to now, and this is not part of the UN at the moment, although we meet and we deal with NGOs, we're trying to put on an agenda, and I'm told it's going to be put on the 58th the Commission agenda next year, probably or possibly in conjunction with African nations. And the agenda is, we call it a working group to end homelessness. So you had mentioned homelessness before. This is a big concern of us worldwide. It's a huge problem. And it's not directly, at this moment in time, addressed by the UN as such. It's not one of, as you know, one of the 17 goals as such, although certainly food and education and water and all those things are, obviously related to this, But certainly if you're homeless, it's difficult to get an education. It's difficult to do a lot of things. So I'm just mentioning, are you based in New York City or in New York, Canada? Or?
I technically have an office here, but it's basically based in Toronto and the UK.
Yeah.
We do have connection
connections
points
up there,
in,
too.
we do have connection points in Hong Kong, Tokyo. There's too many of them.
Okay.
But those are just phone numbers for our phone numbers, but we do have members there. I just want to make sure you guys understand, I don't care about homeless people. I don't care about sexism. I don't care about handicaps. I'm interested in policy that does not identify anything. Every individual, every new type of discrimination is addressed by the concepts and ideas I come up with. I am not advocating for any particular one group. Once you advocate for one group, you're leaving another group behind. My goal is non-discriminatory even in advocacy. I know that's going to sound a bit weird, but I'm ahead of the curve. And this positive mandate is the best way to do it. The best way to get that person out of the street is to allow them to express themselves. I'm a perfect example. There's no reason I should be here. Absolutely no reason whatsoever. But I just decided to do what I willed it. And if they don't like it, I just shout them down. And look, if anybody from the Commission for Social Development is here, I gave you the material. We've got a great idea. Submit it to the UN Institute for Social Development in Geneva. I mean, what's the reason? What's the purpose? Why are you not going to do this if you decided you weren't going to do this? But I think you are going to do this. So thank you very much. That's just my little watching. But no, I'm coming this from a different angle. I don't need any resources from the UN. If the UN actually wants to go ahead with this, I've figured $85 million to set up the positive mandate. That's the figure I've got, which is peanuts. But no, that's where I'm coming from. The traditional ways of thinking and advocacy, I'm not interested in. I'm pushing a new type of agenda because we need something new. If you look at what's happening, like, for example, in the United States, people are tired with the present system. The only thing they have to latch onto are the older systems of social thought, like fascism and us against them and nationalism. That if we have something new, like a positive mandate, they can jump onto that, right? And to get that ahead, you have to operate in a different way, which is what I'm doing, just disseminating an idea. All right. Okay. I'm gonna go on to the what is near and dear to me, which is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which I want to turn into just plain human rights, and and the reason being is that it's a declaration. They all got together and decided these are going to be the human rights. But if you're a kid and you're like, Daddy, why do we have this right and that right? Because it's good. But if you if you can tell the kid, well, it's because we value being able to express ourselves mentally and physically in every way possible because it makes us happy, and these are the rights that ensure that we are able to do that. And there are many. I just mentioned Article 19 in my speech yesterday, if anybody followed that, with the Commission for Social Development. But here's a list of the articles that this mandate addresses. Article 1, Article 12, Article 13, Article 14, Article 16, Article 18, Article 19, Article 20, Article 21, Article 23, Article 24, Article 25, Article 26, Article 29, and Article 30. Basically half. All the other articles deal with legal issues and issues of territory with regards to legal issues and boundaries of countries and whatnot. These are all personal freedoms, and the positive major mandate makes them self-evident You don't have to justify it anymore. They are there because of this positive mandate. We now have a real structured reason for those rights to exist. I don't have to explain to anybody why we need a right for freedom of speech or freedom of movement. To do what we love to do, we need those rights. So, there you go. I kind of like that, so I'm going to skip that part. Okay, the scope of the positive major mandate for humanity at the United Nations. Okay, this one has to do with social inclusion exclusion. A mandate based on the fullest expression of humanity's mental and physical abilities because it makes us happy is very broad in scope. As such, many social problems are included under its scope and can be addressed and solved through such a mandate. The problem of social inclusion and exclusion is one such example, and I think that's what they're dealing with this year. Many issues and problems in society are actually freedom of expression issues. I gave a speech on about that because you're saying, well, what does this positive mandate have to do? You can actually look at a lot of our social problems as a freedom of expression issue. Not being able to vote is obviously a freedom of expression issue. Being denied a career and job opportunities based on race, sex, religion, and other forms of discrimination curtail your personal ability to express yourself through your work life. Being denied your ability to freely date and marry a life partner because of race, religion, and other forms of discriminations curtails your ability to express yourselves in the way you want to live in your society or the way you express yourself in your community. Being denied your ability to practice your religious beliefs because of discrimination is a violation of your self-expression. All the above examples and many more that have not been discussed curtail fullest expression of an individual, and individuals who face such circumstances are not as happy as they would be if they did not have these restrictions. Free expression makes us happy as we are not restricted or imprisoned by others in how we relate to our environment. Thus, our positive major mandate for the humanity gives clear and basic direction on how to proceed in many cultural issues and resolve them. It is a true umbrella mandate under which many other issues can be addressed. Having such a mandate at the United Nations would expedite programs and initiatives to resolve problems of social inclusion and social exclusion in our world. Okay, I normally was going to show you Donald Bruce Bashir, but we have already passed that. So we're going to get on to the experiment, the actual experiment, the Fortress experiment. It's called the Fortress experiment because the company that ran it is called Fortress of Freedom, Inc. That's the name of the first company I started and website, Fortress of Freedom. So kind of get an idea where I'm coming from. Anyways, the Fortress experiment was a 13-year experiment produced by a company called Fortress of Freedom, Inc. that examined the lives of a people in a typical community that had the opportunity to express themselves freely to their community and the world at large. The experiment had controls so that the participants adequately reflected the participants you'd find in a community anywhere in the world. So basically, the people you see in that movie copies of which I have at the front, are people that we didn't pick. They're people that we had a structured, controlled way of bringing into the experiment. And because of that, you can go anywhere in the world, you're going to see the same tribe-sized group of people. For us, it was 33. I think it's 24 and up, or around 24 for a tribe. But this will apply anywhere. These people were given the chance to do what they always wanted to do by letting them express themselves fully to the world. Some went into music, while others went into print or acting and documentary making and so on. We gave these people a second chance to be all they could be. And we have a survey. These surveys... Okay, we did ask them, were you happier as a result of being able to express yourselves? Basically, out of 33, they all said yes. I think if we got a large enough size, somebody would be a bit of a devil and say no, but I think these things are basically self-evident. Anybody that's interested in surveys, we did do the proper survey. So the mean was 100%, as you can tell by the results. The variance of the survey was 0 because they all went one way. The standard deviation, again, was 0 because they all went one way, but the margin of error based on the size of the survey was 17%. Now, with such a small sample size and 100% positive response to the question of the survey, the statistical variables become mostly a non-issue. But we have gone through the motions just to be thorough. The fact is, Everyone was happier, being able to express themselves to the world as they see fit. I'm sure that with a large enough sample size, you would have no response here and there, but I'm confident that this survey result is indicative of a global poll if this were made on the issue. Any general observations? Okay, I'll go through this. Without question, all answered affirmative to being happier for the chance to express themselves as best they can to their community and the world at large. This should come as no surprise to anybody, but we had to quantify the result as a matter of course. The more interesting result is the fact nobody changed during the experiment. The person that joined the experiment at the beginning was the same person that came out of the experiment at the end. So all we're doing is affecting their quality of life. We're not changing people at all. They all maintain their identity and who they are. This enhances who they are. This doesn't change them in any way. Okay, the person that joined the experiment at the beginning was the same person that came out of the experiment at the end. The end result was that they were happy when doing this, and they added to the fabric of whatever area of expression they went into. Okay, so yeah, nobody changed, not even me. One of the stranger things that came out of the Fortress experiment is that nobody changed as a result of expressing themselves. I think we have once again, nobody left their families to go pursue their dreams. Nobody changed their jobs as a result. Nobody changed in their personality or behaviors or the way they live their lives. The person that came into the experiment was the same person that came out. So, yeah, once again, at the UN, I am going to get this argument that it's going to be disruptive to them and all that. No, it's not. They keep doing their jobs. They stay with their families, but their lives are enhanced, and they enhance their cultures. Okay, and we're actually starting to run out of time. I thought we'd be done in a half an hour, but okay, how the Fortress experiment supports their major mandate for humanity. The Fortress experiment shows over years of people's lives that freedom of expression makes us happy, and that this policy can be deployed on a broad scale without fear of societal upheaval or other radical changes in any society. It just ends up making people happier in their lives, and that is something we can all agree on is a good thing. At least I'd like to see somebody argue against that. If anybody wants to, I'm all ears. Okay, some discussion points on the Fortress experiment. More than a simple question on a survey, the Fortress experiment followed around a group of people for years, allowing them to fully express themselves and noted any changes. The experiment has as its results represented in years of a person's life a one-of-a-kind type of experiment. I mean, these aren't human guinea pigs. We don't, it made it easy for me because we don't curtail anything they want to do. So I kind of got a pass and was able to actually look at these people for years and years and years without really feeling guilty about me doing anything bad to them because we were letting them be all they could be. If I had to restrict them for some reason, then I'd have major problems with this experiment. The conclusion that they were happier when allowed to express themselves fully mentally and physically have more weight in that this is shown through years of their lives, and with the controls of this experiment, a typical community you would find anywhere on Earth. The fact they were all, without exception, happier in their lives has real force and meaning when looking into possible policymaking. The fact that nobody changed internally or externally is comforting for policymakers. That nations, societies, and the cultures they live in are not in jeopardy in any way. So this policy would become reality with little downside. This is the greatest contribution of the Fortress experiment. It makes for our purposes of a positive major mandate for humanity at the United Nations. Okay, here we have a guy who was once tried to be deemed a dangerous offender and put away in jail for the rest of his life. And we allowed him to get back his dignity, to express themselves, and he's now my right-hand man at our organization at Fortress of Freedom, and his name is Shane Murphy, not that guy, this guy.
We started as a little, ideal, an experiment, and then it blew into something much bigger, and something that I'm sure a lot of us never thought that would ever happen. We got on TV and radio, and Fofstock blew my mind. It was just unbelievable. For me, that was one of the greatest moments of my life. I kind of live for those moments, you know? I mean, life, you go through some hardships and stuff, but the bottom line is, at the end of the day, man, you got to live for those one-time moments that happen. And I jumped on a stage in front of how many thousands of people? That was unbelievable, man. It was great, it was awesome.
All right, yeah, we held a concert. If you're wondering where these, I will never do that again, the longest day of my life. It was 30,000, so 140,000, 30, yeah, you need money to do the, but yeah. 1 o'clock in the morning, loading Marshall amps onto a truck. Not for me. We did have this big gong that Nazareth used in a concert, and cops and everybody would run up in the middle of the night to bang this gong. But at any rate, all that's in that movie. You can watch it. It's all in there. We go places that are rather interesting. Anyways, financing a positive major mandate for humanity at the United Nations. We really don't need financing. They could just put it as a banner on their website. I mean, it's as cheap as that, but it also opens up the fact that as an umbrella mandate, you can finance things under this mandate and expedite them more quickly than if we didn't have this mandate. If our positive major mandate were to become a formal mandate at the United Nations, it would be able to be funded like any other mandate. I would think the actual financing of programs would be those that fell under the umbrella of the major mandate as their scope is more specific. These funds and programs are created by resolution of the UN General Assembly and have a focused mandate. The source of the funds mostly comes through voluntary contributions and would have as a governing body that oversees their activities. Coordination through ECOSOC and the Chief Executive Board. At the United Nations, member states are elected to the governing bodies, and the UN Secretary General normally appoints the heads of the funds, programs, and other entities. Okay, now we move to this other cat. Looks like me. So the observer of the experiment became a part of the experiment, like quantum mechanics and whatnot, and it happened to me too. So here's my little dissertation. But for me personally, I found this whole experience to be a wonderful thing, an empowering thing, to be involved in international policy making and attaining goals that, quite frankly, I thought never would be attained. Was one of the happiest moments in my life. I mean, I kept reaching goals. I started running out of goals. I had to keep moving the bar forward and forward as I reached and reached further than I ever thought possible. Okay, I cut that off there, what I actually said at the end. So for those of you that feel that the world is out of control and you have no way to affect it in any way, well, I'm the living proof. That's what I said. I thought, you know, that's getting a bit rich. But from where I came from, that was the sentiment. I ain't taking crap from anybody here. Probably because I think I have more ability. And that may be arrogant, but as a philosophy student, don't sell yourself short. Okay, so we're almost at the end of this. I'll just run through some conclusions, but basically you've heard them before. Positive major mandate at the United Nations has many positive benefits. First, it shows humanity in a more positive light rather than as a species that has as its most important function being the elimination of war. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. There's no doubt that the elimination of war is a very important mandate in addition to initiatives like the Sustainable Development Goals, but it is not the only mandate and initiatives that should define the people of Earth. If all the UN's mandates and initiatives were eradicated or solved, what would be the new mandate now that the negative elements that face humanity are gone? We would need a new one, a mandate solely based on the positives of humanity. We would have to ask the question of why we didn't have one already in place. Our positive mandate reaffirms the reasons why we have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and that our goal as a species has a rational and visceral reason for selection, as it makes us happy. A positive major mandate gives humanity as a whole true self-determination. This mandate that we submitted as a model employs both rational and visceral reasons for adoption. Rational reasons alone cannot define humanity and cannot be the sole reason for adoption. Human beings are feeling creatures, and a positive feeling toward a positive goal and adoption could, I got that wrong, toward a positive goal and mandate for humanity would seem to be a necessary prerequisite before consideration or adoption could take place. Our mandate does not specify the ultimate goals of humanity. So once again, it only specifies the best mindset as a directive to forward humanity's culture to whatever ends that might lead. And the freest expression of humanity's physical and mental self, because it makes us happy, would seem to be the best direction you could have. On the strength of the above arguments, we at the International Association of Independent Journalists, Inc., and on behalf of the general public, submit this appeal for a positive major mandate at the United Nations for your consideration. So, for our recommendations, and we are literally at the end of this, recommendations. A, that this report be presented to the United Nations formally for consideration. B, that the formal discussion be started as to the efficacy of having a positive major mandate for humanity. C, that this report and its concept of major positive mandate be just one of an open call for suggestions for a positive major mandate for humanity at the United Nations. So even though I'm pushing my own little agenda here, I would prefer that it be vetted amongst other viable major mandates. I mean, of course, I will always think that this is the best one, but if somebody comes up with a better one, so be it, right? Natural selection. And finally, D, that the process of discussion and vetting of all ideas and concepts for a major positive mandate at the United Nations have as its procedure an actual vote by all relevant stakeholders for adoption at the United Nations. That does, of course, include all member nations, all observer states, but I'd also like to have everyone on Earth vote on this. And how you say could this happen? Well, I already solved that in 2017. Go to worldwidevote.org, and I coded a Android app where basically all, at the time it was 2.5 billion, probably 3 billion people now and more could download this app, vote on a popular, as a popular vote on this issue at the United Nations and make it into flesh, enabling every individual on Earth to decide what their future direction should be is something that means much to me. Technology has now enabled this. I mean, if a joker like me can come up with this and scope it all out with the amount, I think it's maybe a maximum of 3% of total bandwidth. If everybody voted on in the world on one day, I mean, we can do it. I mean, if I can do it, I told the people at the Commission for Social Development, a 9-year-old could do it on the Android app 2 system. So why aren't we doing it? So, and that concludes the formal presentation. Any questions? Everybody just itching to get out? Yeah, go ahead. Just press that.
Hi, I'm Alana. I'm just curious why you decided to present this to the UN of all organizations.
Because the UN is the most natural organization to present such a thing. The voting app, too, it has to be the United Nations. You can come and try to make your own organization to do this, but organizations like that usually have a lot of infighting, violence and stuff. I thought it would be better to go to the UN and say, look, if you guys don't endorse things like a worldwide vote, popular vote, it's going to happen outside the United Nations. And it's going to be out of your control, and it's probably going to be a bloody, violent type of thing. So I prefer this happen in the structure of the United Nations, where things are much more civilized. I'm the only uncivilized part of this discussion at the United Nations, but that's why. I've seen these grassroots movements try to become flesh on their own, and there's always a lot of infighting. The people that started it are usually chewed up and spat out. So I think this is the place, the best place. Any other questions?
Do you have any handout materials?
Yeah. The movie, first of all, if you go to our organization, IAIJ.org, you can download every report, this positive mandate report, the worldwide vote, our survey on citizen journalism, everything we have done with the United Nations is there. You can go to fortressoffreedom.com. I've had a blog going there for 10 years. You can see all our initiatives. Somebody tried to corrupt a few years of it. I'm gradually fixing that now. But you can see on a day-to-day basis how things happen. And I don't go back and reread these. Whatever happens there, good or bad, is for you to see. It's all out there. Anything else? All right, that concludes our side event. Remember, feel free to take those DVDs of our 720p QuickTime app, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I always have to hit that. I don't want to do that as a kid. I always have to do that.